There is something you want, something that has lived in you, perhaps quietly, perhaps with great intensity, for a long time. A life that looks different from the one you are currently living. A version of yourself that feels more fully realized. A relationship, a level of abundance, a quality of freedom, a depth of meaning that you have glimpsed in moments, but have not yet been able to sustain. And you have tried to get it, perhaps many times, through effort, through strategy, through discipline and planning, and the sheer force of wanting something badly enough. And perhaps you have had some success. And perhaps you have also experienced the particular frustration of getting close, of feeling the thing within reach, and then watching it slip away, or dissolve, or transform into something that does not quite match what you were reaching for. What if I told you that the reason, the real reason, beneath all the circumstances and strategies and efforts, is something that most people never examine? What if the barrier between you and everything you want is not in the external world, not in your circumstances, your connections, your resources, or your timing, but in a single mechanism operating beneath your conscious awareness that has been quietly shaping every result you have ever created? Your subconscious mind, and the secret it has been keeping from you. Here is the secret, and it is both simpler and more profound than most people expect. You do not get what you want. You get what your subconscious believes you are. This is not a motivational phrase. It is a description of a neurological reality that determines every result in your life, whether you are aware of it or not. Your subconscious mind, processing 11 million bits of information every second, is not listening to your goals. It is not reading your vision board. It is not moved by your ambitions or impressed by your intentions. It is doing one thing, constantly, with extraordinary precision. It is maintaining consistency between your external reality and your internal identity. The identity it has stored in its programs. The beliefs about who you are, what you deserve, what is available to you, what is safe for you, installed over years and decades of experience. Most of it before you were old enough to question any of it. And here is what that means in practice. You can want something with every conscious cell in your being. You can plan for it, work for it, visualize it, affirm it, and sacrifice for it. And if your subconscious identity is not aligned with it, if at the deepest level of your programming you do not believe you are someone who has, keeps, and deserves what you are seeking, the subconscious will find a way to maintain the gap. Not cruelly, not deliberately, simply doing its job, maintaining the match between who it believes you are and what your life reflects. Let me make this real. You have probably seen this pattern in your own life, even if you have never had a name for it. The person who builds a business to a certain level of success, and then, inexplicably, makes decisions that bring it back down, not from lack of knowledge or strategy, from a subconscious identity that says, "This level of success is not who I am." The person who finds genuine love, and then, just as the relationship deepens into something real and lasting, creates the conflict or the distance that pulls them back to familiar emotional territory, not from lack of desire, from a subconscious that says, "This quality of love is not available to someone like me." The person who loses weight and then, over months or years, returns to exactly where they started. Because the subconscious identity is still the identity of someone who carries that weight, and the body, managed by the subconscious, returns to the shape that matches the identity. These are not failures of willpower. They are not character flaws. They are the subconscious doing precisely what it was designed to do, maintaining the match between identity and reality. And they will continue every time, in every domain, until the identity changes. Not the goal, not the strategy, not the effort, the identity, the deep, subconscious sense of who you are, and what you are therefore allowed to have. The philosopher Epictetus, who was born a slave and became one of the most influential thinkers in human history, observes something that the modern science of the subconscious has now confirmed. That the quality of a person's life is determined not by what they seek, but by what they are. Not by their ambitions, but by their character. Not by what they want, but by who they have become. This is not a counsel of passive resignation. Epictetus was not saying that effort does not matter. He was saying something far more precise. That effort directed at changing external circumstances without first changing the internal identity is effort wasted. That the only leverage point from which genuine, lasting change can be made is the self. Not the self that wants differently, the self that is different. Your subconscious understands this perfectly. It has always understood it. Every result in your life is a reflection of who your subconscious believes you are. The relationships you have attracted, the financial reality you are living, the state of your health, the quality of your daily experience, the level of meaning and purpose you feel. Every single one of these is a mirror held up by your subconscious, reflecting the identity it is carrying. And this is the most important thing I will say in this entire video. The way to get everything you want is not to want better. It is to become the person for whom what you want is simply the natural reality. To install, at the subconscious level, the identity of someone who already lives in alignment with what you are seeking. Not someday, not when the circumstances change. Now. In the programming, before a single external thing has shifted, there is a principle that runs through every wisdom tradition, and that modern neuroscience has now given a precise biological explanation. It has been called many things across many centuries. The law of correspondence, the principle of as within so without, the mirror principle, the concept of vibration and resonance, stripped of all mystical language. Here is what it actually describes. Your subconscious mind, through a network of neurological mechanisms, shapes your perception, your instinctive responses, your intuitive decisions, and your habitual behaviors in ways that consistently produce results that match your internal programming. The reticular activating system filters the 11 million bits of information available to your senses every second, letting through only what is relevant to your subconscious's current programs. So a person programmed for scarcity literally cannot see the opportunities that a person programmed for abundance perceives immediately in the same environment. The mirror neurons in your brain generate responses that attract people and circumstances that resonate with your subconscious frequency. The stress hormones released by a subconscious running fear programs affect your physiology, your energy, your appearance, and your charisma in ways that influence every interaction. And the automatic, subconscious patterns of behavior that emerge from your identity, the micro-decisions, the habitual responses, the instinctive choices collectively produce, over time, a life that perfectly mirrors who your subconscious believes you to be. This is not mysticism. This is mechanism, and it operates whether you are aware of it or not, which means it can be directed consciously, intentionally. Starting now, study the people who consistently get what they want. Not the lucky ones. Luck is a factor in everyone's life at various moments. The people who consistently, across years and decades and changing circumstances, create lives that reflect what they most deeply value. The people for whom success, in whatever form genuinely matters to them, seems to follow naturally rather than having to be forced. What do they share? It is not always intelligence. History is full of brilliant people who lived in perpetual struggle. It is not always opportunity. History is equally full of people who created extraordinary lives from genuinely difficult circumstances. What they share, what the research on successful people across every domain consistently finds, is a specific quality of relationship with themselves. A quality that is, in the language of subconscious mechanics, an identity alignment. They do not experience a gap between who they are and what they have. The life they are living and the self they believe themselves to be are not in conflict. The success is not something external that they are trying to pull toward them against the resistance of a subconscious that believes otherwise. It is an expression of who they genuinely believe they are. The business leader who builds company after company is not someone who works harder than everyone else. They are someone whose subconscious identity is that of a builder of companies. The person who maintains extraordinary health across decades is not someone with more discipline than others. They are someone whose subconscious identity includes being a person who cares for their body. As a matter of course, the quality of their results is a direct reflection of the depth and consistency of their identity alignment. And identity alignment is not a gift. It is a practice, a subconscious practice. So how does this actually work? How do you shift a subconscious identity that has been in place for years, sometimes for decades, and install in its place the identity of the person who naturally lives in alignment with what you most deeply want? The process has a name. It has been called by many names across many traditions. Jung called it individuation. The Stoics called it the practice of virtue, which did not mean moral uprightness, so much as the cultivation of excellence of character. Modern neuroscience calls it identity-based behavior change, the recognition that lasting behavioral change only occurs when the underlying identity changes first. And whatever you call it, the process is the same. You do not begin by changing your circumstances. You begin by changing the story your subconscious is carrying about who you are. Not the story of what you want, the story of who you already are, in the present, before a single external thing has changed. I am someone who creates value and is naturally rewarded for it. I am someone whose relationships are characterized by genuine love and mutual respect. I am someone whose body is strong and vital and cared for with attention and love. I am someone who handles challenges with creativity and resilience rather than with fear and avoidance. I am someone whose life is an expression of what genuinely matters to me. These are not affirmations in the hollow sense. They are identity declarations directed at the subconscious in the language it understands, delivered in the conditions under which it is most receptive, and they are the beginning of genuine change. Let me give you the complete protocol, the daily practice that installs a new subconscious identity over time. Not overnight, not with a single dramatic decision, but consistently, patiently, with the understanding that neural pathways are built the same way rivers are carved, not in a moment, but through the persistent flow of water in a direction. In the morning, in the theta window after waking, before the phone and before the day, you spend 15 minutes with the identity you are, installing, not visualizing outcomes, not constructing fantasies of a future life, simply inhabiting the quality of the person you are choosing to become. The ease they carry, the way they relate to themselves with respect and genuine care, the relationship they have with what they want, not desperate, not grasping, but simply aligned, natural, expected. You feel this quality in your body as fully as you can. And from within that feeling, you speak the identity declarations, 3 to 5 sentences, present tense, first person, delivered with whatever genuine conviction is available to you today. Throughout the day, you practice what I call identity moments, brief, deliberate pauses in which you ask, in this situation, how would the person I am becoming respond? Not perfectly, not from the arrival at a fully realized identity, simply from the direction of it, from the genuine intention of moving that way. And before sleep, in the second theta window of the day, you spend 10 minutes in the felt experience of your desired identity. Not the outcomes, the quality of being, the internal experience of the person who has what you want. Let that be the last conscious experience before the subconscious takes over for the night and does its deepest work. There is one element of this practice that determines whether the identity installation takes weeks or months, and it is the element that most people, even those who practice consistently, tend to underestimate. Emotion. The subconscious does not install programs through repetition alone. It installs programs through repetition combined with genuine emotional charge. This is why childhood experiences install such permanent programs so quickly. They are accompanied by intense emotion, fear, shame, love, excitement, grief. These emotions are not obstacles to subconscious reprogramming. They are the mechanism, the carrier signal through which new programs are transmitted from the conscious experience into the subconscious architecture. When you practice your identity declarations in the theta window, if you can generate a genuine elevated emotion alongside the words, the installation happens at a depth and a speed that repetition alone cannot achieve. Gratitude is the most accessible elevated emotion for most people. Before your morning identity practice, before the declarations, spend 2 to 3 minutes in genuine, specific gratitude. Not a general sense of thankfulness. Something specific. Something that genuinely moves you. The person you love. The fact that you woke up today. The capacity you have to think and feel and choose. Let the gratitude arise genuinely in your chest, in your breath, in the quality of presence it creates. And from within that emotional state, begin the identity declarations. You will feel the difference immediately. The words carry weight they did not have before. The subconscious receives them at a depth that repetition without emotion cannot reach. And the identity installation begins to accelerate. Identity installation is not only an internal practice. It is expressed and accelerated through action. Specifically, through actions that are aligned with the identity you are installing before you feel the identity fully. This is the paradox that most people get stuck on. They wait to feel different before they act differently. They wait for the confidence before they take the action that would build it. They wait for the identity to feel real before they behave from it. But the subconscious learns from experience even more powerfully than from declaration. Every time you act in alignment with the identity you are installing, even imperfectly, even nervously, even without full conviction, you give the subconscious a piece of evidence. Real, experiential, embodied evidence that this identity is not just an aspiration. It is beginning to be real. It is beginning to be who you are. The person who is becoming someone with a healthy relationship with money makes one conscious, aligned financial decision today. Not a dramatic one, a real one. The person who is becoming someone with extraordinary relationships has one moment of genuine, unguarded presence with someone they love today. Not a performance of intimacy. A real moment. The person who is becoming someone who creates from their genuine gifts makes one small act of creation today. Not perfect, real. Each of these acts, small, imperfect, genuine, is a deposit in the subconscious bank of identity. And deposits compound. Slowly at first, then faster. Then, at some point that you cannot quite predict and will not quite be able to explain, the identity is simply who you are. And what you want is simply what your life reflects. There is a paradox at the heart of getting everything you want. And it is the same paradox that every genuine wisdom tradition has pointed toward. From the Stoics to the Taoists to the teachings of Jung. The more desperately you want something, the more intensely your wanting is suffused with lack, with fear, with the painful awareness of the gap between where you are and where you want to be. The more powerfully your subconscious is being programmed with the experience of not having it. The wanting itself, when it carries the vibration of desperation, is a program that says, I do not have this. This is not yet mine. I am someone for whom this is not yet real. And the subconscious, always maintaining the match between identity and reality, maintains the gap. The secret, the subconscious secret that nobody talks about, is this. Getting everything you want requires releasing the desperation of wanting it, not releasing the desire. The desire is the compass. The desire is what tells you which direction your becoming should move. But releasing the desperate quality of the wanting, the clinging, the forcing, the anxious monitoring of whether it is coming yet, and replacing it with the quiet certainty, of the person who is becoming someone for whom this is simply their reality. This shift from wanting to becoming is the most important shift in subconscious programming available to you, and it is available in any moment, right now. In the decision to stop reaching desperately for the life you want and to begin calmly and consistently becoming the person who lives it. History is full of people who discovered this secret, sometimes through deliberate practice, sometimes through the hard-won wisdom of repeated failure and eventual surrender to a different approach. Abraham Lincoln failed at business twice, lost 8 elections before winning the presidency, was described by people who knew him as someone who seemed to carry a profound sense of his own eventual significance, not arrogantly, but with a quiet certainty that the story was not yet finished, and that who he was becoming was equal to what history would eventually require of him. Thomas Edison, asked about his 10,000 failed attempts to create the electric light, famously said that he had not failed. He had successfully found 10,000 ways that would not work. The identity he carried of someone for whom success was not a question of if, but of when and how, meant that failure registered not as evidence against the identity, but as information in service of it. Oprah Winfrey, fired from her first television job and told she was unfit for the medium, carried an identity that the firing could not touch, because the identity was not contingent on the job. It was not contingent on the opinion of the person who fired her. It was carried in her subconscious as a settled, if at the time fragile, conviction about who she was and what she was here to do. Each of these people, and the thousands of others whose stories share this same essential structure, had not yet achieved what they wanted when the critical identity was installed. They became first. The achievement followed, as it always does, as it always has, as it always will. Let us come back to where we began. There is something you want, something that has lived in you, perhaps quietly, perhaps with great intensity, for a long time. And now you know the secret. Not the secret of trying harder, not the secret of better strategies, or more refined techniques, or greater force of will. The secret of becoming. Your subconscious does not give you what you want. It gives you what it believes you are. And what it believes you are, it learned from experiences you did not always choose, from programs installed before you had any say in the matter, from a childhood that gave you certain beliefs about yourself and about what is possible for someone like you. But here is what is also true. What was learned can be unlearned. What was installed can be updated. The subconscious that received its programs without your consent can receive new programs with your full, deliberate, morning by morning intention. This is the work, not glamorous, not dramatic. A quiet, consistent, daily practice of becoming the person for whom what you want is simply their reality, of installing that identity in the theta window with genuine emotion, through aligned daily action, until the gap between who your subconscious believes you are and what you most deeply want simply closes. Not because the external world changed first, because you changed first, and the external world, as it always does, as it has always done, as it always will, followed. Everything you want is not on the other side of better circumstances. It is on the other side of a subconscious that finally believes you are someone who has it. And that subconscious, your subconscious, is listening right now. Tell it something true. Subscribe to Awake Mind. I will see you in the next one.